Hello, my name is Erin Cummings. I completed my teacher's training at Lakehead University in the spring of 2014. Completed my final placement at Crolancia Public School in Pickle Lake, Ontario.
My name is Kayla Blakeney, and I teach grade 6, 7, 8 in Pickle Lake at Crolancia Public School. I did my placement here in 2013 with a 7-8 class.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew Grant. This is my third year up here at Crolancia. I teach mostly mathematics, but I have been known to teach other subjects as well. I graduated from Lakehead University in 2011, where I started off in Sioux Lookout as a supply teacher, and I also worked out on a reserve teaching grade 5, 6, until I eventually found my way up here.
My name is Toby Jonason, and I'm a teacher here at Crolancia Public School. I've been an associate teacher for several Lakehead University student teachers over the years, and I've also been an MTIP mentor to those student teachers who were hired by the board.
Yeah, my placement definitely prepared me for my current role and my role immediately following my placement. I did go up and teach high school in a reserve about 300 kilometers north of here. A fly-in community, and I feel I was much better prepared than some of the students, the new teachers who had also worked on that reserve without the benefit of the rural placement, the remote placement. So, for example, I knew a few words of the language. I understood some of the sort of communication and cultural protocols. I felt ready to immediately start sort of seeking out opportunities to connect more with the community and participate in community events and things of that nature. I also had the opportunity while living in Pickle Lake to meet people from the community as they passed through sort of a local transportation hub. And so there were some familiar faces in the community when I arrived, which really helped my transition, I think, in getting used to the fly-in community and the lifestyle there. Also, I think I had better classroom management skills that allowed me to have a really positive experience in my time in Wanneman Lake, particularly with establishing rapport and trust among the students. And it was reflected in really excellent attendance rates and some pretty good achievements among the students in those classes. It's also been an excellent gateway for moving back into the provincial system as a substitute teacher. Being back at Crolancia, I know the town well and have ongoing relationships with a lot of the students and teachers here. And so there is a sense of coming back to something familiar and being valued and remembered and recognized. So it's definitely probably helped define my first few years as a professional teacher and the choices I've made about the sorts of school settings I'd like to work in the future.
It's called a practicum for a reason, absolutely. I think the theory that you learn within the coursework or within the actual Bachelor of Ed program in class doesn't make any sense until you get a chance to practice it on your placement. I work in a rural and remote school and had the I was fortunate enough to do my placement in a rural and remote community. In fact, the fact that I actually did a rural placement is the reason I have the job I do today.
When you're in a smaller place, the dynamic of you in the classroom changes a lot from what it would look like in the city. I did both of my placements in Thunder Bay, and I really wish I would have done a placement out in a smaller school before coming to our board, the KPDSB. We have a very diverse student base, and there are a lot of different needs that they have. So as an example, I teach in a high school of about 25 students or so, but I'm often called upon to teach multi-leveled classrooms. So not just like grade 9 academic math, but like grade 9 academic applied essential math. And you don't learn those kinds of skills inside of a city placement. You can only learn those kinds of skills out in a rural placement. So I found if I had the chance, I would have wanted to do a placement out here, since you're going to learn so much more than you would inside of a city, because you are being exposed to a completely different environment, and you're going to be called upon to do a lot more.
Right. I think I learned quite a bit about the specific like Ojibwe and Ojibwe cultures in this region of the world. Began with familiarizing myself with some of the language. We did use it in the classroom as much as possible, even if it was just to identify the month and a quality for the day that we were going to be focusing on. I also had an opportunity to look through resources that the library and the classroom had that were offered like cultural insights and even local histories of the nearby communities. I also took the opportunity to figure out what treaty territory I was in and learn a bit about the history of that treaty and the communities that had signed on to it.
One of the biggest things I learned was being in a rural community, there's really not a large diversity of students within a class. Most of the time there's a 95% population within a class or even within a school of students being identified as FNM or I. And I feel like that sort of created interesting circumstances for their learning environments as well as their lifestyles. They don't have access to a lot of other cultures to bounce ideas off of or to sort of learn from. So they're very much isolated in their small rural communities.
I did get multiple chances to connect with the community. I think initially the teaching and support staff of the school were an excellent sort of context for getting more involved. I subbed in for curling shifts with all of the local teams, was able to participate in community events like dinners and graduation ceremonies, and was able to meet parents and make connections between the families I would run into at the grocery store and on the street and their children who were in the school. Also, we have a junior rangers group based out of Mishkigogamang and Pickle Lake, and I was fortunate to be invited along on snowshoeing trips and some wiener roasts and things like that, which gave me a chance to get to know some of my fellow teachers and students outside of the school context and learn more about, wilderness training and all those good things.
School here in Pickle Lake is quite a hub for the community. And being involved in extracurriculars like the breakfast club or sports club when I was on my placement really connected me with not only the students but the staff.
I think some of the most important qualities are to come with an open mind and a desire to grow as a learner yourself, to maybe take the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the culture of the area, whether it's an Aboriginal culture or a particular community with a particular economy. I think to have a spirit of adventure, to be willing to strike up relationships with people as best you can, to explore the local wilderness or environment, and to take opportunities whenever possible to learn from people outside of the school context if folks are willing to invite you along to participate in community events. And I think a sense of humor is always good, and patience and adaptability.
Ones that come to mind are definitely a curiosity for learning. I think if you're coming to the north or coming to a rural placement, you're already curious, which is basically your first step. You've got to be outgoing, willing to try new things, willing to get involved, initiative, perseverance, an open mind.
One of the most important qualities is having the ability to adapt and to be flexible with what happens in a school day. Often teachers will have a beautiful lesson already laid out, but then with student absences and the transient nature of some of our students, they'll still have to be flexible to be able to deliver the lesson in the way that they want. And just kind of rolling with the punches and going with the flow will help the student teacher succeed.
I would recommend it to any teacher candidate, but particularly people like myself who grew up in a southern city and chose to do my education in a more northern community, but still an urban setting. I think a lot of opportunities for teachers right now are within the remote communities and rural north of the country, and it gives you an excellent perspective into the kinds of unique cultures and classroom dynamics and relationships that you'll find in these smaller remote schools.
Anyone in the teaching profession, I would recommend that to. Even if you're not planning on doing a placement permanently, or have a teaching position permanently in a rural situation, I think it provides you with a very unique experience. It teaches you things that you can't learn in a city center.
In all honesty, I would think that anybody who's looking for a job in teaching has to consider coming out to a remote place or rural place to do a placement. And that's just to get their foot in the door with a board. As an example, in Thunder Bay, there's still a large surplus of teachers. And so oftentimes teachers will look at being on the supply list for 8 or 9 years before they even talk about any sort of permanent position. So if you're looking to get a job, you want to be in a rural board like the Keewatin Patricia District School Board, because we have jobs here and there is a need for it. Specifically, if you were thinking about what kind of courses you want to take in university, I would highly recommend you take your math and science courses, since we have a need for it up here.
Teaching at a school like Crolancia gives teachers the opportunities to teach in often triple split grades, where within those triple split grades are a wide range of skills and abilities. And you still have to be able to teach the curriculum to each of the grades so that they have the skills they need to move on and maintain high expectations for all the students. Teaching in a small school like Crolancia, it's important for teachers to be willing and able to collaborate with other staff. We have a small staff, and each teacher brings a skill set or ability set that can enhance what's going on in your classroom. So if you can work together, that can also help you to develop good rapport with your class and with your staff, and have authentic learning happen.
I think some of the benefits off the top of my head were, for one, the small class sizes. I really appreciated getting to know the students a little more quickly than I had in my city placements, as well as being able to work with students from multiple grade levels and experience levels, which is something that's useful in the real world of teaching these days. I also appreciated the environment of the community and the ability to bring outdoor learning into the classroom.
The biggest ones, that it provides an opportunity to develop a unique set of skills and a strong understanding of the specific learning needs of students who live in the bush. You're given more responsibility and certainly gain confidence in your teaching skill set and abilities as well. Rural placements may mean access or limited access to equipment, so you really have to be flexible and somewhat creative with the resources that you have access to. I think the most incredible opportunity to in a rural placement is to get the chance to get to know your students, and all the students in the school for that matter, on a profound level, and really see the resilience that they exhibit in the face of so much adversity.
Some benefits of a rural placement include better opportunities to get to know the students. Our classes are smaller, so you get to interact more with them. There are more opportunities for involvement in the community. We often have community suppers and activities like that where you get to know the families. There are more opportunities for extracurricular activities, and you can, because we don't have organized sports or anything like that, it provides teachers opportunities to interact with the students on a fun level as well as academic.